Good morning, we are live. Before we begin, I will go over the emergency response plan for this room. In an emergency, everyone must evacuate through the nearest safe exit. Those seated in the gallery take direction from security to evacuate. Council takes direction from the meeting clerk to evacuate. After evacuating the room, please proceed to a stairwell. Take the stairs to ground level and evacuate the building through the doors marked emergency exit and go to the muster point. Do not take an elevator or walk through the city room. Anyone with limited mobility should identify themselves to security or the meeting clerk during an evacuation. Finally, please speak with security or a meeting clerk if you require first aid. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Everyone's so quiet. Nice to see everyone. Good morning. So I would like to call this meeting to order. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and the Métis homeland, and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nkorasu, Nkoraiska, as well as Métis and Inuit, now settlers from around the world. I will do a roll call of council colleagues. Councillor Wright.
Good morning.
Councillor Knack.
Good morning.
Councillor Principe.
Good morning.
Councillor Stevenson.
Good morning.
Councillor Paquette.
Good morning.
Councillor Tang.
Good morning.
Councillor Hamilton.
Good morning.
Councillor Rutherford.
Morning.
Councillor Salvador.
Good morning.
Councillor Cartmel. Okay. Councillor Rice.
Good morning.
And Councillor Jans.
Good morning.
All right. Adoption of the agenda. Councillor Hamilton.
Yes, thank you. I saw no changes come through, so I'll move adoption of the May 20th City Council public hearing agenda as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Please vote.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Just waiting on one.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Any protocol items? Nope, I don't see any. Now to the explanation of public hearing. All right. Before we begin our discussion, I want to share my expectations as chair for the conduct of everyone participating to ensure a safe and inclusive environment and workplace. These expectations apply equally to both in-person and virtual attendees. Hearing from the public is an important part of Council's process to ensure we hear the full diversity of opinions that exists in our community. As meeting chair, I have a responsibility to ensure the safety of all participants in today's meeting. As part of that responsibility, inappropriate comments or gestures will not be tolerated. If they occur, I will direct the clerk to immediately remove anyone engaging in such behavior. The type of behavior that will result in the removal from the meeting includes making disrespectful comments directed at individual staff members or other public speakers or using profane language. Responsive behaviors to show support or dissent, such as shouting, cheering, clapping, or using the chat or emotion response features in the Google Meet are also not permitted. I will not provide any additional warnings, and once removed, the person will not be permitted to rejoin the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed, and everyone is welcome to view the live stream online. Again, my role as chair is not to moderate the nature of the content being discussed, but to ensure chamber behaviors are maintained to support a safe, respectful, and neutral space for my colleagues, city employees, and the public. I thank everyone in advance for your respectful participation in today's discussion. Now, the explanation of the public hearing process. The clerk will call out the bylaws, and I will call out the names of the people registered to speak. Council will then select the bylaws they wish to discuss and vote on any bylaws that have not been selected for discussion. Council will then deal with each of the bylaws that were selected for discussion and debate. For each item, administration will first provide a presentation. Members of the public who register to speak will then be invited to make their presentations in panels. The first panel will be those in favor, followed by a panel of those opposed, continuing in that order until everyone has been heard. Each person will have 5 minutes to make comments. The clerk will run the official timer in the council chamber. The timer lights on the podiums will be green for the first 4 minutes, turn yellow when there is 1 minute remaining, and flash red when the 5 minutes are up. If you're participating virtually, there is a virtual timer in the Google Meet, or you may wish to use a timer of your own. When everyone in your panel has made a presentation, members of council may ask questions of you or other panel members. After hearing from the public, council may ask questions of administration. After all questions of administration have concluded, I will ask council if they wish to ask any further questions of those who presented in the response to new information that may have arisen during the public hearing. Thereafter, council may close the public hearing and debate the bylaw. If participating virtually, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. If experiencing any technical difficulties, please reach out to the office of the city clerk using the contact information provided in your confirmation of registration or at city.clerk@edmonton.ca. If you're here with us in person, city staff will guide you to your seat when it is time to hear from your panel. With that, clerk, may you please call the bylaws.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.1, Bylaw 21128, to allow for medium and large-scale mixed-use development and medium and large-scale housing, Britannia Youngstown, Kenora, Garneau, Glenora, Glenwood, Grosvenor, Inglewood, Jasper Park, Meadowlark Park, Sherwood, Westmount, West Jasper Place, and Waquentoin?
We have in favor Yolanda Liu to answer questions only, Stantec joining remotely.
Good morning. We're just here to represent our client at 1220 Stony Plain Road. So if there's any questions related to that property.
Okay. And Ghazal Lotfi to answer questions only, Stantec.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Same here, representing our client at 12220 Stony Plain Road, if there are any questions.
Okay. Brian Murray, B&A Studios, remotely. Oh, there you are, Brian. Okay. Brian is in person. Jacob De Wong, Grow Together Edmonton, remotely.
Hello.
Thank you. Eric Kemmer EIT, remote.
Yep, present.
Thank you. Brad Thiessen, joining remotely. Brad, are you there? Okay. Rajesh Shah, to answer questions only, joining remotely. Rajesh, are you there? No. Deepak Bharambat, joining remotely. Deepak? No. Prashant Patel, to answer questions only, joining remotely.
Good morning, Mayor.
Thank you. And Ryan Yag, joining remotely.
Good morning.
Thank you. So those were signed in favor. Now in opposition, panel number 1, Kyle McLeod in person or remotely? Nope. Rob Smythe, I see Rob there, joining in person from Glenora Community League. Dave Onishenko, Clarity Development, joining remotely.
Good morning.
Thank you. Carol Craig, remotely.
Good morning.
Thank you. Evan Wood, in person or remotely. Pat Prestwich, remotely.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Lorne Zellick, remotely. Okay, no worries. Kelly Butts, remotely.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Antje Espianco. Rejoining lately, no worries. Elizabeth Finn. Good morning. Thank you. Wendy Gervais. Thank you. Rachel Musselwhite. Remotely or in person?
Good morning.
There you are, thank you. Jesse Sonef, Garno Community League, remote or in person? Jesse? Okay, no worries, we'll call the names again. Steph Neufeld, Garno Community League, remote. Steph, okay.
Sorry, present.
Okay, thank you. And Anjali Vargazi, Garno Community League, remote. Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. So that's panel number 1. And opposed, panel number 2, Wendy Antoniak, Old Glenora Conservation Association, Glenora Community League, in person. Thank you. Marie Gordon, in person. Okay. Walter Pavlik, in remote. Remote. Okay. Walter, you there? Okay. Carol Secord, remote. Carol? Okay. Stephen Lakey, remote. Stephen, are you there? Kevin Taft, in person or remote? Okay. Debbie Cronwit Martin, remote? In person? Debbie? No. Christine?
I'm here, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Debbie, that's you? Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Christine Lafave, remote?
Here.
Thank you. David Crittenden, remote? David? Okay. Nancy Hunt, Remote? Nancy, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Thank you. David Percy, remote? Okay, David, are you there? Okay. Peter Fox, in person? Thank you. Elvin Mappa, remote?
Present.
Thank you. Bonnie Dong, remote.
Bonnie has withdrawn.
Bonnie has withdrawn. Okay. All right. So those were the speakers.
And
Public.
we do have 2 additional speakers registered opposed.
Okay.
We have Willow McIntosh and Louis Tremp.
Willow McIntosh, are you there? Oh, in person. Okay. And who was the second name, sorry?
Louis Tremp?
Trent?
Tremp.
Tremp. Louis Tremp. Are you, there you are. Thank you. All right. Okay, any other names?
That's
That is
for
it,
now.
okay. All right, now for selections. Who would like to select 3.1? I could, but then I have to see the chair. So, Councilor Stevenson, you want to do that? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. That's the only bylaw that we have, and the related reports. We will go to administration to make a presentation, then we will go to members of the public in favor, then in opposition. Okay, please go ahead.
Mayor Sohi, can I, point of order, just jump in?
Yes, that is Councillor Knack. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sohi. So I need to speak up, share this at this moment. So I have checked with the ethics advisor. As I own the home where my mother-in-law lives, which is contained within the properties up for discussion today, I therefore have a pecuniary interest and am not allowed to participate in the deliberations or vote on this item. So I needed to state that, and then I will be exiting the meeting.
Okay, so that is for the entire bylaw, not just the section of the bylaw where the property is in.
Correct.
Right.
Since it's being treated as one single bylaw.
Okay.
And the property is within it, I am not allowed to participate in this discussion.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So you're
Thank you very
recused
much.
from the
I'll
meeting.
exit the meeting now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll
Please,
be exiting. Take care.
clerk, if you could please note that in the record that Councillor Knack is unable to participate due to pecuniary conflict interest. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. Okay, now we go to administration to make a presentation, then we'll proceed with the rest of the meeting.
Good morning, Council. This application proposes city-led rezoning of select priority growth areas across the city. The proposed zones include a combination of the mixed-use, large-scale residential, medium-scale residential, and small-medium-scale transition residential zones. Lisa Jury, Senior Planner, and Jordan MacArthur, Principal Planner, are here to present the proposal. Next slide, please.
The city plan sets out the development framework for Edmonton to support a population of 2 million people. While all parts of the city will experience redevelopment over time, the largest developments are expected in the node and corridor network. The nodes and corridors initially expected to see the most growth in the redeveloping area are identified as priority growth areas, often referred to as PGAs. These are locations where deliberate urban intensification and increased density will help realize the city plan's goals to welcome more people into the redeveloping area. This project was initiated by a motion at the Urban Planning Committee in 2022 to consider rezoning priority growth areas. Following budget approval, a work plan was presented in February 2024. Next slide, please. A process involving a technical review and targeted stakeholder engagement was used to evaluate all 19 priority growth areas and select PGAs based on a variety of factors, including opportunities to implement the city plan, land use conditions, transit connectivity, and a third-party market assessment. 5 PGAs were selected for targeted rezoning: 124th Street, 156th Street, Center City Wakantoin, Stony Plain Road, and University Garneau. These areas benefit from numerous amenities to meet residents' daily needs, including recreation spaces, post-secondary institutions, commercial and employment opportunities, and high levels of transit connectivity. The Capital Line in blue and the Metro Line shown in red run through the University Garneau PGA. The dotted green line shows the future Valley Line West LRT alignment, currently under construction, running through the other 4 PGAs. Additionally, planned mass transit Route B1 will serve the Garneau PGA, and Route B2 will connect to both the 156th Street and Garneau PGAs. Next slide, please. Proactive rezoning is one of the tools the city can use to remove barriers in these areas and realize the goal of the city plan by supporting a more vibrant network of nodes and corridors. This work is intended to encourage future... Looks like my got signed out. Thanks. This work is intended to encourage future investments by creating more certainty for applicants and residents on what types of development will be encouraged and supported in these areas, reduce the costs and risks associated with developer-initiated rezonings, which will help streamline the development process and make it easier to build, unlock additional land supply in our existing neighborhoods to enable a wider range of housing options and the development of walkable, transit-oriented communities, and proactively identify infrastructure needs to support increased housing and business opportunities. Next slide, please. The proposal was guided by a set of principles that aim to balance long-term city objectives with community interests and the increasing need for additional housing in the city. These principles include alignment with the city plan and district plan's direction for the node and corridor network, taking a gradual and incremental approach, moving the nodes and corridors towards short-term policy targets, transitioning from taller buildings along arterial roads and transit stations to smaller buildings closer to the edges of the nodes and corridors, focusing on areas with more development potential, incorporating public feedback where possible to propose zones that better reflect the local context, increasing flexibility by rezoning direct control zones to standard zones, and concentrating mandatory ground floor businesses in significant locations to enhance their prominence and minimize oversaturation. These principles help to inform how sites were selected and what zones and zone modifiers were applied. Next slide, please. Each of the priority growth areas selected are identified as a node or corridor. They each have unique density minimums to support building sizes, as shown on the slide. The district plan policy provides additional direction as to where low, mid, high, and tall high-rise can be supported. Wakantoin is part of the Center City node, University Garneau is a major node, and 124th Street and Stony Plain Road are primary corridors. Finally, 156th Street is a secondary corridor. Next slide, please.
In accordance with the city's public notification bylaw, notice of the project was posted online for more than 30 days. In addition to these requirements, a range of traditional and digital marketing tactics were used to inform Edmontonians of the proposed rezoning, as well as invite them to participate in the public hearing. Next slide, please. Communication included postcards, lawn signs, newsletters, road signs, emails, social media advertisements, and pop-up events. Due to the complex and unique nature of this proposal and the multiple revisions it underwent, an expanded engagement approach was used within the advised level of the city's public engagement spectrum. This approach included a variety of in-person and online tactics, such as workshops, chat with a planner meetings, open houses, a citywide survey, and dedicated Engaged Edmonton web pages with interactive maps. Next slide, please. Extensive feedback was received and summarized in the What We Heard reports. Feedback was varied in nature, but some common themes have been summarized on the slide. Across all PGAs, respondents noted that design and aesthetics are important, and they worried about how new developments would look and fit in with the existing neighborhoods. We also heard the city should prioritize density in other areas first, such as on vacant lots and in other neighborhoods. Those in favor of the proposal indicated that greater density can help with affordability, support improved public transit, and create more vibrant and walkable neighborhoods. Those in opposition referenced the lack of infrastructure to support additional density and that it would worsen parking and traffic congestion, reduce affordability, and have negative impacts on nearby small-scale homes or historic buildings. Finally, the project team received mixed feedback on the location of ground floor businesses. Many participants value the vibrancy of commercial shopping streets, but also noted how the changing retail landscape can lead to lengthy vacancies and the proliferation of similar business types. We also heard of the need for increased density to support businesses. Next slide, please.
The feedback was gathered through multiple phases of engagement to inform the revisions to the final proposal. Following the announcement of the selected PGAs in the spring, the first phase of public engagement in summer 2024 included exploratory discussions to inform which properties should be rezoned and what new zone and zone modifiers should be applied to these sites. Next, the focus areas for the proposed rezonings were refined and a draft rezoning proposal was presented for additional feedback in fall 2024. Additional revisions were made based on the guiding principles, including public feedback, and the final draft proposal was presented to the public for comments at the end of March 2025. Next slide, please. The next slides will outline how the proposal changed throughout this process and include some common themes across all PGAs. In all of the rezoning areas, the mixed-use zone with a height modifier of 28 meters is commonly used along arterial roads to enable buildings up to approximately 8 stories. This provides opportunities for mid-rise developments that reflect the site's prominent and visible locations within the PGAs and enables development in line with current building trends. However, additional size is proposed near the LRT stations, major intersections, and along arterial roads with the appropriate context. Administration has chosen to adjust heights to reflect the surrounding context and have been lowered where possible to decrease impacts on small-scale housing, open spaces, or along node and corridor edges, despite policy support for additional height. Finally, mandatory ground floor commercial is focused on existing shopping streets and LRT stations and is optional in areas that are more residential in nature or with less demand for additional commercial space. Next slide, please.
The following slides will present a series of maps that show how the project evolved in each priority growth area. As the proposal is complex in nature and large in scale, this and another forthcoming slide are intended to help the audience better follow along with the presentation. The first two maps for each PGA begin by showing how the rezoning area changed from the first round of public engagement to the final proposal. Areas shown in light blue represent the lands originally discussed with the public. Hatching shows the lands that have been removed, and areas added to the proposal are shown with a dark shading. Next slide, please. We begin with the University Garneau PGA, which as a major node is second only to the center city in terms of expected density. The map shows a border of 80th Avenue in the south, 108th Street in the east, and Saskatchewan Drive to the north. Lands owned by the University of Alberta are shown on the left-hand side of the image. The project team went to the public with the initial focus area, again shown in blue, that concentrated along arterial roads and considered properties with zoning that was not consistent with the long-term goals for a major node. This included properties zoned for small-scale housing and low-rise buildings. The existing direct control zone for the special character residential area was excluded, as it is supported in the Scona District Plan's sub-area policy. And the University of Alberta is exempt from municipal planning processes through the Post-Secondary Learning Act. Next slide, please. Public feedback indicated a preference for higher density redevelopment to first occur on arterial roads. The University Garneau focus area was revised by removing properties currently zoned for small-scale residential development where there was not an opportunity to transition from existing high-rise zoning. such as north of 87th Avenue and south of 81st, allowing for a more incremental approach. Properties that required custom zoning due to site constraints, have historical designation, or whose zoning already aligned with the major node were also removed. Several properties were added along 82nd Avenue to better reflect the existing built form of the street and to respond to public feedback. Next slide, please. With the rezoning area now identified, we will take another moment to explain how the next series of maps work. The following slides will show the chosen zones and zone modifiers, highlight several key decisions, and indicate where redevelopment will be required to include ground floor businesses. As these maps encompass large geographical spaces and include a lot of information, they have been color-coded to improve clarity regarding zone selection. As seen on the right side of the slide, standard residential zones are shown in yellow, with red indicating where the mixed-use zone has been proposed. Lastly, we have also scaled the vibrancy of these colors to reflect the intensity of the zone, with shorter heights being indicated by muted pastel shades and larger high-rise zones having darker and more intense colors. Next slide, please. This slide shows the proposed zones in the University Garneau area. Residential zones are again shown in yellow, and the mixed-use zone in red. The more intense colors indicate where zoning allows for greater height. Both the Garneau Special Character Residential Area and the lands owned by the University of Alberta are labeled for reference. Next, I'll highlight a couple features of the University Garneau proposal. Next slide, please. The tallest buildings, reaching up to 75 meters in height, are proposed at the northern end of 109th Street to reflect large redevelopment opportunities, and along 82nd Avenue, west of 109th Street, for more consistent zoning along these blocks. The RLH65 is also proposed on 87th Avenue between 110 and 111th Streets. Next slide, please. While district plan policy would support additional scale, rezoning between 109 and 110th Street is limited to 23 meters to reduce impacts on existing small-scale homes to the north. This has been lowered from the previously proposed height of 50 meters. Rezoning along 81st Avenue, which currently has the small-scale residential zone, proposes buildings up to 23 meters to transition from the south side of 82nd Avenue, which allows for high-rise buildings up to 65 meters. Administration also chose to make additional reductions south of the Garneau School Playground and next to designated historic resources on 81st Avenue to enable more sympathetic massing. However, there remains policy support for additional height in these locations should private applications be made in the future. Next slide, please. Mandatory ground floor commercial is included along sections of 82nd Avenue, an important shopping and entertainment street, and the northern portions of 109th Street to reflect its role as a vibrant community hub. This is shown on parcels with red lines on the slide. Next slide, please. Moving into Wet'suwet'en, which is part of the Center City Node, Edmonton's highest density hub, this map shows the portion of the neighborhood from 100 to 105th Avenue and between 111 and 122nd Street. A portion of the 124th Street primary corridor is also visible on the left. Initial discussions explored properties in close proximity to 104th and Jasper Avenue with a focus on old direct control zones. Next slide, please. Influenced by public feedback, several properties between 102nd and 103rd Avenues were added, while others were removed if they had zoning that aligned with the Center City Node or require sub-area policies that would be difficult to achieve with standard zoning. Next slide, please. The proposal has the largest scale zone, being the mixed-use zone up to 85 meters in height, recommended along Jasper Avenue to reflect existing high-intensity development in the area. Many of these properties have also been included to eliminate an older direct control zone that currently limits buildings to 36.6 meters in height. This change improves flexibility and better reflects the size of newer towers on the avenue. Next slide, please. Zoning north of Jasper Avenue changes to mostly the RLH65 zone, which is consistent with much of the existing zoning on these blocks. Larger zones are also recommended along 104th Avenue to reflect the future Valley Line West LRT route. Next slide, please. The interior of Wet'suwet'en proposes the medium-scale residential zone up to 23 meters in height. This reflects current building trends in the neighborhood and allows for more density while remaining compatible with existing walk-up apartments. Greater scale is shown north of 103rd Avenue to recognize its closer proximity to mass transit. Next slide, please. Mandatory ground floor commercial is focused along Jasper Avenue to maintain the traditional commercial Main Street character and near future LRT stops along 104th Avenue. Next slide, please. Moving to the 124th Street primary corridor, this map is bordered by 122nd Street and 126th Street and ranges from 111th Avenue in the north to Jasper Avenue in the south. The initial focus area explored properties south of 111th Avenue, with the Westmount Architectural Heritage Area being excluded. Next slide, please. The focus area was revised to concentrate closer to the future transit station and add density nearer to the commercial core of 124th Street. Some properties were also added along 102nd Avenue west of 124th Street. Next slide, please. The final proposal primarily focuses on mixed-use, mid-rise zoning along the arterial roadways, with zoning along the corridor's eastern boundary of 122nd Street, largely mirroring the proposal in the Wet'suwet'en Center City node. Next slide, please. The largest scale zones are proposed near major intersections and the future 124th Street station, with heights up to 75 and 85 meters. These heights either match existing zoning in the area or are comparable to the heights of existing towers. Next slide, please. Mandatory ground floor commercial is retained near the existing heart of 124th Street, south of 109th Avenue, and made optional where the street becomes more residential in character. Next slide, please.
Moving on to the Stony Plain Road primary corridor, which runs from 126th Street in the east to 178th Street in the west. The initial proposal explored rezoning properties within 400 meters of some future LRT stops. Next slide, please. The revisions focused on properties located closer to LRT stations and removed areas zoned for urban services uses or already aligned with the policy for a primary corridor. Two small additions remain near 148th Street and at the eastern edge of the corridor. Next slide, please. The final proposal shown on the slide focuses on the eastern portion of the corridor, with 142nd Street intersection seen on the left-hand side of the map. The majority of the area proposes the medium-scale residential zones with either 16 or 23 meters of height to transition into the surrounding neighborhoods. Next slide, please. The largest scale zone is proposed at the intersection of Stony Plain Road and 142nd Street near the future Grosvenor and 142nd Street LRT stop and reflects the existing high-rise buildings in the area, West Block and Crescent Place. Next slide, please. This slide shows the western portion of the Stony Plain Road proposal, particularly between the 149 and 156th Street intersections, which also proposes various medium-scale residential zones along the edges of the corridor. Next slide, please. The mixed-use zone with up to 40 meters in height is proposed at the northeast corner of 156th Street and Stony Plain Road to accommodate a large landholding at a major intersection and near mass transit stations. The medium-scale residential zone with heights up to 28 meters is proposed south of 100A Avenue and between 156 and 158 Streets due to its close proximity to both the Jasper Place Transit Center and future Jasper Place LRT stop. Next slide, please. Mandatory ground floor commercial development is focused next to LRT stations and along parts of Stony Plain Road with a continuous storefront. Next slide, please. Finally, we will look at the 156th Street secondary corridor. This map only includes the southern portion of the corridor, going from 100th Avenue in the north to 87th Avenue in the south. The initial areas considered for rezoning included all portions south of 100th Avenue. Next slide, please. Revisions included removing parcels not directly along 156th Street or they were already zoned for low-rise mixed-use developments. Next slide, please. Zones along 156th Street are proposed for predominantly residential zones ranging from 16 to 23 meters, with taller buildings closer to future LRT stops. Next slide, please. Some larger mixed-use zones up to 28 meters are proposed at major intersections or future LRT station locations as shown on the slide. There is no mandatory ground floor commercial proposed in the 156th Street corridor. Next slide, please. To support the rezoning proposal, several technical studies were completed. In response, administration has added internal labels to any property with either an environmental or geotechnical consideration. These sites have been identified and analysis will be required for any future development permit reviews for these properties. The city also worked with EPCOR to analyze the impacts of redevelopment on water and wastewater infrastructure. Although upgrades may be necessary in some locations, generally redevelopment can be supported with existing EPCOR infrastructure. Site-specific reviews will take place at subsequent stages of development to ensure sufficient fire protection and on-site stormwater management. Finally, a mobility study was also completed. Next slide, please. The multimodal transportation assessment was completed to understand travel demand and the mobility network needs within the selected priority growth areas. City plan policy was used to guide the analysis, focusing on managing congestion by increasing transportation options and targeted multimodal improvements to the existing roadway infrastructure. The assessment identified short, medium, and long-term improvements that can address gaps within the existing mobility network. Short-term actions would focus on high-impact, low-cost improvements, such as signal timing adjustments, curb extensions, and transit signal priority. Medium-term actions would include expansion of the active transportation network and intersection reconfigurations. Long-term actions may involve comprehensive reconfiguration of major corridors, such as addition of BRT routes. Some improvements can be delivered through existing or planned projects. However, most require future investment and will need to be prioritized alongside other mobility priorities within the city. Next slide, please. In conclusion, administration recommends council support this proposal to encourage investment and additional housing and business development in these priority growth areas. This proposal aims to concentrate where we want to see redevelopment occur first, while considering feedback and local context to create a proposal for deliberate intensification. These 5 areas are all well positioned due to their transit investments and neighborhood amenities to welcome more people into the redeveloping area and impact the way we want to grow to a city of 2 million people. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. It was pretty comprehensive and really appreciate it. Now we will go to folks signed in favor. And if you're here, please come to this side and I'll call your name and identify which number, which chair you'll be sitting at. Yolanda Lewis to only answer questions only, and so is Ghazal Lotfi to answer questions only. And Brian Murray, BNA Studio, is in person. Brian, you please be the speaker number 1 there, or 3, sorry, speaker number 3. And Jacob DeWong is joining remotely. Jacob, you're still there, right?
Yeah.
And Eric Keme Rachi remotely. Eric, you still there? You'll
Yep,
be
still
speaker
here.
number 5. I'll see if Brad Thiessen joining us. No. How about Rajesh Shah to answer questions
Yeah.
only? You're there,
Good
Rajesh?
morning.
Okay.
Good morning, sir. Yes.
Any particular area you wanna ask? You wanna answer questions on, Rajesh? Or
No, if
overall?
there is any question, yeah, overall.
Okay, got it. How about Deepak Bharat? Deepak, are you there? No. Prashant Patel to answer questions only. Prashant, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Thank you. And Ryan Yuck,
Yep, still
you're
here.
there too. Okay. All right. So we will start with Brian Murray. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mayor Sohi and members of City Council. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Brian Murray and I'm a partner at B&A Studios, and I'm here on behalf of Quality Properties, the owners of 9 parcels along 87th Avenue directly west of the Garneau Theatre. I want to express our strong support for the rezoning of these lands that will accommodate a future mixed-use development. I commend Council and Administration for your leadership in tackling the housing crisis and for advancing policy that aligns with the vision of City Plan. This proactive rezoning approach is not only a policy exercise, it's a real, tangible step toward delivering more housing, greater affordability, and more sustainable growth. This bylaw creates certainty for redevelopment by eliminating the needs for individual rezoning applications. That means less red tape, less risk for property owners, and faster delivery of new housing for Edmontonians. Garneau, a major node, is one of the most connected neighborhoods in the city. It is served by LRT, high-frequency bus routes, and excellent active transportation infrastructure. Enabling growth here maximizes those investments and supports a vibrant, walkable community. Importantly, this rezoning will allow for a broader mix of housing types that reflect the diverse needs of Edmontonians and provide more attainable options within the urban core. I also want to acknowledge the city's efforts to engage with landowners and the broader community throughout this process. The proposed bylaw represents a thoughtful and balanced approach to redevelopment that considers both the opportunity and neighborhood sensitivities. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we'll go to Jacob DeWong. Please,
Hello.
go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Jacob DeWong, and I'm a volunteer with the volunteer-only group Grow Together Edmonton. We are a pro-housing group that seeks to support building more housing in all neighborhoods to end the housing crisis in Edmonton and across Canada, and to support our needs as our city grows. I'm a resident of Queen Alexandra. It's a neighborhood near the University Garneau Major Node. I spend a lot of my time there. I have friends there. My wife works at the hospital in that node, and it is central to our lives as a lot of our core transportation infrastructure, whether it's buses, the bike routes that I take, or the LRT runs through that node. I'm here to express my strong support for this city-led rezoning that will enable us to grow sustainably to 2 million people. To set the context, we all know that Edmonton is growing very rapidly. And for many years, it's been in one direction, out. When I spoke at the district planning, you may remember that I called for a lot more density near LRT stations and that we weren't doing enough. And although that passed despite my reservations, I think that it's now time to build upon what was agreed on with the district planning and continue to do what we can to support transit-oriented development where people don't have to live with a car, where people can walk to where they need to go, and where people can generally live where they want to. In my look at the effects of the zoning bylaw renewal, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more on June 3rd and subsequently, I found that there is a strong latent demand to live in mature neighborhoods and near transit. What that means is that through the actions of zoning bylaw renewal, and also through hopefully these actions today, we will enable more people to live the lives that they want, in the places that they want, close to work, close to the people they love, in the neighborhoods that they want to live in. This will enable lowering rents in these communities, keeping these communities affordable, and allowing more people to live their best lives where they want to live. And I think that alone is a reason to support this rezoning. Moving on to the engagement, I want to say that I showed up to the engagement for a few of these for a few of these areas, and so did some of my colleagues within our group. And we found that the engagement was well run, there was well attended, and the points were well presented. So I want to thank administration for this. And I think that, as you can see from administration's presentation, there were a lot of changes made and a lot that I'm not happy with. Of course, I would have liked to see more land area included, but you cannot deny that, for example, in the University Garneau Major Node, just for example, there was a lot of land removed from the start to the finish. That speaks to the level of compromise that was made between the need for growth and what some people were asking for, both on the pro side and the side that wanted to see a bit less density or density in less places. I think it's also necessary to recognize that this tension as we grow, we need to be looking for not just the next few years, but for many years in the future. The developments in these rezoned lands will not take place immediately. We're not going to see immediate growth in every single one of these parcels. It'll still take years or maybe even longer. Some of these lands may not be developed, and that's for a long time, and that's okay. Development is random, and that's the reason why we're taking a broad view over all these lands, is so that some of them will fulfill the needs of our growing city. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Eric Camarachi.
Yep. Okay, good morning, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Eric Camarachi, and I'm here today to express my support for the University Garneau Priority Growth Area rezoning changes and others. My partner and I chose to live and own a home in this area because of its proximity to the university, the LRT, community amenities, and the overall walkability that makes day-to-day life more sustainable and connected. This is a community where it's possible to walk to schools, bike to work, and access local shops without needing a car, a quality that should not only be preserved but expanded upon. The University of Alberta continues to grow, attracting more students, faculty, and staff every year. It only makes sense that people should have the option to live closer to where they work and study, reducing long commutes and car dependency. Denser housing options around major institutions like the university allow for more people to contribute to the vibrancy of the community while also supporting local businesses and public transit infrastructure. We can reduce traffic congestion by providing space and amenities to people who work or study at the university by providing more housing just a short walk away or a bike away. I had the opportunity to attend community engagement sessions for the proposal and others, and I was supportive of the more ambitious ideas presented. While I would have liked to see those bold concepts in the final proposal, I believe the current iteration is still a significant step in the right direction. It prioritizes growth in a way that respects the character of the neighborhood while making room for more people to call it home. It's a compromise, but it's a meaningful one that can keep everyone happy, hopefully. One suggestion I would like to bring forward is the inclusion of small-scale commercial developments along key bike routes, or the allow for that. Imagine a string of local cafes, bakeries, and shops that are easily accessible by bike or on foot. This would not only enhance the cycling experience, but also support local businesses and create a stronger sense of community. It would make biking more pleasant and practical choice for everyday errands, further reducing the need for car trips. Additionally, there are a number of empty lots scattered throughout Garneau, empty spaces that are serving no one right now. If these zoning changes help activate those lots, turn them into homes or local businesses, I believe that is a far better use for those lots and for our community than leaving them vacant. Empty lots are missed opportunities for vibrancy and growth. We should be building community, not waiting for it. This zoning is an opportunity to support thoughtful density, sustainable growth, and a more concentrated or more connected, vibrant University Garneau area. I urge you to support this proposal and help pave the way for stronger, more inclusive community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Rajesh Shah is to answer questions only. Deepak is now. How about Ryan York?
Hi, good morning.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Ryan Jakes, and I'm a 24-year-old born and raised Edmontonian. As we all know, Edmonton has a rapidly growing population, and I think the city has done a reasonable job in identifying areas that are prime for development and redevelopment, including extensive community engagement over the last few years. And that is a big part of why I wanted to speak here today. I'm sure a perceived lack of meaningful engagement is something you will hear over and over again later today, which, to be fair, can be a valid concern, as some of you are aware that I myself have concerns about engagement on a separate matter. However, I do not think that is the case here. In fact, I was actually directly engaged on this myself, and without seeking it out as a topic of personal interest. While I've since aged out, I proudly served as a youth councillor on the City of Edmonton Youth Council from September 2019 to August 2024. And during this time, my fellow 19 youth councillors and I were engaged by the city on this. I looked back, and at our General Assembly meeting on April 3rd, 2024, city planners Lisa Drury, Jordan MacArthur, and EOL Yimmer, my apologies on any mispronunciations, made a guest presentation on the PGA rezoning and fielded questions and comments from the youth councillors. At that point, they had not yet selected PGAs, identified the land within PGAs for rezoning, nor fully coordinated with infrastructure capacity studies. We were right in the mix to give our feedback and have the ear of the city planners. But it didn't end there. Being mindful of time and our agenda, Senior Planner Lisa Drury extended an invite to any interested youth councillors to join a separate meeting specifically focused on PGA rezoning, which I took her up on. After lining up everyone's availability, we met on the evening of April 22nd, 2024, and delved deep into the topic in what I felt was a meaningful and authentic discussion, including Lisa taking notes during the meeting. I am very impressed by the city's holistic and rigorous engagement approach here, and that they were willing to engage with youth and learn more from the youth perspective. The fact is, people are moving here, and we have to choose how to manage this growth and provide Edmontonians who are old and young, current and new, with access to amenities and leverage our mass transit investments. I suppose we could put all our eggs in the functionally impractical basket of patchworked neighborhood level planning and hope for the best, but that has been and would continue to be an irresponsible approach to planning and growth. We can continue to build condos next to the Henday and beyond to soften the financial blow of suburban sprawl in a sort of haphazard attempt to make housing supply keep up with demand, regardless of access to amenities and transit. But we have a crucial opportunity here to take a more proactive and responsible approach. We are lucky to live in a city that takes long-term planning seriously and is forward-thinking about how to build a city, balancing long-term goals with neighborhood perspectives and context. It is clear that a lot of thought and engagement has gone into this, including my personal involvement, as I mentioned. PGA rezoning is not the solution to the housing crisis, but it is an important step in the right direction in terms of affordability as well as livability. My family has lived in Edmonton for over a century and watched the city grow into what it is today, including two family members, Harold Deaton and Catherine Macaulay, who have Westmount heritage plaques on their historical homes within the 124th Street primary corridor. I think they would be proud to see what the Westmount area is becoming and how Edmonton can continue to evolve through responsible planning on where and how we sustainably grow, which the 124th Street primary corridor, along with the other PGAs, can, and I think should, play a significant role in this growth. I am proud to call Edmonton home and very optimistic about my future here, and the potential for me to have an affordable, fulfilling life. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. So that is it for the folks and signed in favor. Now questions to folks from council colleagues. Yeah, just to see if Brad Thiessen. Brad, are you there? Nope. Okay, now to questions. Okay, Councillor Rice, go ahead, please.
Thank you, everyone, for being here to speak. This is very important work for our city. I do have a question to Mr. Mary. So I would like to have better understanding and then for your strong supports for this rezoning from development perspective. From development perspective, specifically, we have the different phases, and for the planning, public engagement, and from that perspective, so you see this rezoning gone through all the process right now at this stage. So the two questions related. Number one, and is a good time and to finish all this rezoning and for the future purpose for the planning or anything. So I would like to get some detail from technical perspective.
On the process overall.
Overall, yes.
I can say that from a developer perspective in the development process, this is de-risking and removing substantial red tape. This process on a single site rezoning would take approximately 6 to 8 months and cost the developer a substantial amount of money, not to mention the engagement, which is all very important. And so the city taking that on and ownership of that to advance their own priorities is another barrier out of the way to achieving growth.
So that's from process. And also from development perspective, we heard...
You changed your passcode?
I'm sorry, Councillor Rutherford. Okay, here you go. Good. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so from development, we heard some speakers talk about this may take years and different phases. From development perspective, can you give more detail about what's your understanding on those planning phases? So you will not say this will be like the 10 years finish or 5 years finish or 15 years finish. So what's your takeaway and from this?
Sorry, Councillor, I'm struggling to understand the question. Are you asking kind of where would we go next after this?
No, the timeline.
Oh, the timeline. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, developing a site or constructing, for example, my client's lands, which would be a mixed-use development, will take some time, approximately a year to develop architectural plans, another year to go through the permitting process, between now and then assembling all of the capital, and then ultimately constructing. So you won't really see development from the point of a rezoning for at least 5 years. That's typically how long it would take to come to market.
So at least 5 years.
Give or take, depending on the complexities of the development.
Yeah, give or take. I try to understand why I'm asking this question, because for many rezoning are already done, and then the land is still there, and the field is still there, but development is still not there yet. And I often receive the question from residents, say, those areas empty there for 10 years now, and then rezoning done 10 years ago. So that is why I try to get a sense how this priority growth area, and like you mentioned, and thank you for mentioning that, our city taking initiative to really and to push this, reduce the red tape. And so what's the timeline from developer perspective? So you mentioned about the 5 years. I think I saw some the audience are not say their lot or their hate. So the next step after this rezoning and could be involved with residents as well for the detail planning, area structure planning, or what his next activities or in terms of this timeline could look like?
To me? Yep. Well, the benefit here is that the consultation process will have concluded and the developers can proceed with the actual permitting process, which is directly with the City of Edmonton. I will say, though, there is still the Edmonton Design Committee process, so there's still going to be all kinds of input on the designs overall.
Wonderful. This is actually really helpful. And because you mentioned some the permitting process, and then that is for the public to understand what the next step will look like, what the timeline will look like. And thank you for your answer my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Jans.
Hi, similar thread as Councillor Rice. So if I may to guess Murray, so having the benefit of the upzoning removes the uncertainty for financing, for lending, for other things, that this is allowed to go here, this can go here, and that can shave, you said, 6 to 8 months off the process?
More than that, I mean, even the anxiety of not understanding what the will of council is may delay projects several years. I'm just talking about the start of the process to when we get before you for a decision is about 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
A developer may not choose to even move forward because of the uncertainty in the process and actually undertaking all of that risk and money and capital to actually advance a project in the first place.
Right. So just because something is upzoned or rezoned or what is still no guarantee that construction happens, though?
No.
Okay, so something could sit for maybe 10 or 20 years, but that the zoning would be there.
The opportunity is there with certainty.
Yeah. So around 20 years ago, you and I were both involved in NextGen, and very high level, the idea of NextGen was talking about densifying the city, looking at nodes and corridors, looking at transit-oriented development, looking at, we may not have used the same language, but this whole sentiment of we need to grow up, we need to go out, or stop growing out, we need to grow up, was there. Like, high level, do you think that administration picked the correct areas here? Because we started with a whole bunch, zeroed in on a few, now we're down to 3. Like, do you think this kind of got there?
From my perspective, absolutely. I think, you are following your own guidebook, the city plan, and I think it was, as I mentioned in my speaking notes, it was a balancing act between the opportunity and balancing the neighborhood sensitivities. That doesn't mean, for example, the site that I spoke to couldn't have additional height. It really is ripe for additional height, but that's a future conversation with landowners. And so I think that the opportunity is there. They've done a great job in meeting the demands and balancing the sensitivities.
And when I look at something like the West LRT or the Southeast LRT, like, do you see a scenario where we aren't building around those stations, or does this sort of, like, is this, I heard somebody use the term fait accompli, and I was trying to think back, like, well, was that when city plan was passed, when that was when the train line was put in, was that when, like, kind of you see tracks, expect homes? I don't know. I don't know if that's fair because it's not your parcel, but
I'm struggling with the question on that.
Well, yeah, like how, like, whether it is if there is a parcel near a train station, whether it is upzoned through this process, or it is upzoned through a different process, the high-level guidance for at least 20 years has been that the city is trying to grow around train stations. Is that
correct? Yep, and that gives certainty to the industry to want to be able to invest their dollars in those locations. The will of council today will further strengthen that opportunity.
Okay, if I can just also dig in a bit on other variables that may affect timelines, and sorry, I think you're the only industry rep, so you're in the hot seat here, but what I've heard, there's still just so much uncertainty around tariffs, trade war, etc., price of steel, everything else. Is there? Do you think there's a bit of a like? What are some of the other if the rezoning happens and we don't see shovels in the ground in 5 years, what should the city be doing?
That's a very big question. Everything council does to remove barriers to development is helpful, and not just development for the sake of development, but for providing homes and putting in the commercial and institutional needs. But everything from the availability of trades to get the work done, so skilling, upskilling individuals, being able to remove any levies, I know there's been some debate around dollar incentives per door. Those go a long way. If you recall, the downtown plan many versions ago had $1 per door just to get Railtown built. You wouldn't see that without the investment made or redirect of funds to offset those costs. Anything that council can do to improve the bottom line, to make something that barely pencil is a win.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. Councillor Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to all the speakers who've taken the time to be with us today. Maybe I'll stick with Brian as well, and along a similar line of questioning. So, yeah, recognizing that this is sort of one step or one tool in the toolbox to help de-risk projects and to spur development in areas that we know are in line with city plan and all of our guiding policies. At the same time, we know that this won't deliver like immediate growth on every single one of these parcels. I guess can you just paint a bit of a picture? How would you expect some of these areas to start to build out over time, I guess?
Interesting question. It's challenging. I mean, number one, the property has to be owned by someone who has the ability to actually develop and invest in the property in the first place. Recognizing that you're creating the opportunity for that to happen with greater ease is what really we're discussing here today. But ultimately, the ability to see anything that has a major concentration of amenities, so areas like the 109th Street corridor in Garneau would be ones that would be more easily invested in because of the energy and vibrancy around, actually creates a better investment opportunity for, let's say, rents. Rents have to be at a certain rate to be able to afford the development to go forward, but also, of course, in Edmonton being an affordable city, still, balance the needs of the market to be able to have people rent those units. So it's a number of factors, but generally you'll see development and growth around areas that already have significant amenities, shopping streets, access to transit, LRT, rapid bus service, those types of things.
Right. Okay. And just on that, I'm reflecting on examples from other jurisdictions and other cities, and even there have been examples in Edmonton in the past where proactive rezonings and upzonings have occurred, but they haven't necessarily been in areas where all of those factors that you just described aligned around, market demand, proximity to amenities, transit, where we, I would describe it as areas where we can expect to see development versus areas where we really might want there to be development, but market conditions are just not there yet. So there's not really a question in there. Would you say that this approach is leaning towards aligning those factors and sort of capitalizing on those existing factors versus maybe how we've done proactive rezonings in the past?
Completely agree, Councillor. I mean, this is the low-hanging fruit as far as proactive rezoning goes. You have all of the infrastructure you have already invested in, Edmontonians have already paid for or are paying for. This is the opportunity to capitalize those through taxation of future higher and best use of those sites.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I want to go to a different speaker here. Hang on. I'll go to Jacob. You had mentioned that I think you'd done some work just to look at some of the strong latent demand to live in mature neighborhoods near transit. I think you referenced it might be a better suited conversation for the one-year zoning bylaw renewal conversation, but I guess how does that inform today's discussion as well?
Right. So yeah, like the work I did was mostly focused around zoning bylaw renewal and the effects of it coming into 2024 and 25. But what I'm seeing is that it's largely achieving its goal of repopulating mature neighborhoods and increasing the percentage of homes that we're building near transit. Now, as we've been in this discussion, developers don't build unless there's a market for it, unless there's demand for it. So what it's showing is that there's large demand to live in our mature neighborhoods. And since this is a rezoning that is largely focused around the transit and the mature neighborhoods, it will seek to satisfy that demand, or in other words, allow more people to live where they want to live and live the life that they want to live, enabling that increase in their quality of life.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for elaborating on that. No further questions right now.
Thank you, Councillor Salvador. Councillor Principe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for Eric Camarachi. Hi there. Yep. So we've been hearing some concerns from residents about empty lots in the area, and something like that have been undeveloped for years, and something that you said kind of piqued my interest. You had said empty lots will be activated by this bylaw. Can you explain that further, what you meant by that?
I just think that by upzoning some of the more concentrate or the areas around 109 and maybe having more businesses come in the area, it might spur more development in those empty lots by increasing demand for places near those new businesses and stuff, and especially like the bike lanes and stuff too. There's people I've run into in the neighborhood who have said that they like the area because of the bike lanes and they want to live here because of them. So that's just kind of the thought process.
Okay. All right, thank you. That was my only question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. Councillor Stevenson, can you take the chair, please?
I have the chair.
Thank you. I'll start with Speaker Duong. So you talk about repopulation, bringing more people back into mature neighborhoods, environmental sustainability, and utilizing the existing infrastructure. So are we talking about here kind of like if we grow inwards, grow upwards, are we talking about not growing outwards?
I mean, I think those are I think that's a bit of a tough question. I think council has decided.
Isn't that the trade-off we should be making?
I think that is a trade-off. I think, I mean, you have a few choices, right? You can grow outwards, you can grow inwards, or you can have a housing crisis like you've seen in the rest of Canada, right?
Yeah.
So I think council has been wise over the years in choosing to move towards going more inwards, and we know, and I think everyone on council is aware that that's a more financially sustainable growth pattern where you don't have to raise as much taxes to support the infrastructure to support that population. It's a more affordable way to live because you don't need to pay for gas or having a car if you're living in these areas. So yes, it is, in my opinion, the better choice. And when we're looking to satisfy the housing demand and people want to live in these mature neighborhoods, every home that we build inwards is one that we don't build outwards.
Yeah, so sustainability from better utilization of cities' existing services and infrastructure, but I'm also hearing you say that it's also affordable for people moving into those neighborhoods because amenities already exist or the transportation costs are less because of access to, say, public transit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it'll also be more affordable for existing residents too, as in the long term, it'll contribute to a more sustainable tax base where we don't have to continually raise taxes up and up and up to pay for more and more infrastructure and renewal and like thousands of kilometers or lots of kilometers of roads.
You also mentioned something about some of the lands being removed from the original after consultation with the community members. The areas have been narrowed down instead of what was the original proposal.
Yeah, so I think that's like clear from the administration presentation in the first map where they show the focus area and they show the hatched out areas where those lands were removed from consideration and some were added, but largely the lands were mostly removed. And I want to be clear that I do not agree with it. I would want to go in a different direction.
What are your concerns about that?
Yeah, so I think the broadest possible rezoning is the best way to go about it. When you rezone broadly, you lower the speculation that goes on the land and the land lift. And also you allow for just generally more housing in the places people want to live. I realize that this is a balancing act on part of administration, but I just wanted to point that out to say, even though these lands have been removed, I still think this is a step forward. And also point out that there has been, like, there's clearly two sides to the story. There's people in favor and there's people against here today, and that both sides have been taken into consideration with increasing height near LRT stations, as well as removing some lands and just showing the robustness of the engagement process here.
Okay. And my last question, like you are part of a group called Grow Together Edmonton, and you have been advocating for red tape reduction, zoning reforms to enable more housing choices and diversity of housing choices. Has that helped us as a city to be maybe relatively more affordable compared to other cities?
I think the results speak for themselves. Throughout the years, even before Grow Together Edmonton, Edmonton was, I'd say, the leader in forward urban planning with removal of parking minimums, duplexes, backyard homes, and it's continued throughout the past few years. And we remain one of the more affordable metropolitan areas in Canada. We're seeing increased pressure with the housing crisis pushing people out and increasing demand here. And we have to continue with the forward thinking to meet the moment. But I think the results speak for themselves. We remain largely affordable. We just have to keep our eye on the ball to make sure we stay that way.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty much out of time, and I will take the chair back. And Councillor Hamilton, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I really had one question, and maybe it's more dialogic, but I'm gonna pick on Mr. Murray. One of the things that we might hear from folks in opposition, and I've certainly heard from folks who live in neighborhoods that are aggressively redeveloping, is that we're talking about a lot of this redevelopment as being on a 10, 20, maybe even a 30-year horizon. And there are some neighborhoods that are seeing this. I'm going to say, it's probably easier to speak more directly. A neighborhood like Meadowlark, and even Jasper Park are seeing aggressive redevelopment happen like within the last 18 months, like where over 50% of houses on a street may be in the process of being redeveloped. What I'm hearing from you is that there's sort of a latent, and I've heard from some of the speakers today, is that there's a latent demand for the redevelopment of these housings and this housing typology, but it is putting strain on some of the infrastructure in the neighborhoods. And I'm wondering what your perspective or suggestion would be as a professional in this industry to mitigate some of the impacts of sort of aggressive development timelines that we're seeing in some neighborhoods.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. It's a challenging answer to give, only because when I look at some place like Jasper Place, the property values may be more affordable in order for someone to acquire a block of properties in order to redevelop something more significant. So obviously, that availability of land and the opportunity around the city is going to, change, between every single neighborhood, quite frankly. So it is challenging. As far as infrastructure goes, I mean, all properties, whether they're pre-zoned or you're into a development permit, have an assessment or will have an assessment that will determine any off-site improvements or downstream improvements that need to be made to support that property. So I think that's really part of a technical process, and your administration can probably more clearly outline what that looks like. But ultimately, it's a good problem to have, to see growth and change and improvements in your lands in neighborhoods that perhaps have been somewhat challenged. And while it may be rapid, the outcome is positive and one that is supportive of your infrastructure decisions that you've made over the past several years.
All right, thank you very much.
Can you move the second round, Councillor Hamilton?
Yeah, I'll move the second round of questions.
Second.
Please vote.
In favor.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Sorry, Councillor Tang, you haven't had a first round. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Sorry, I was a little slow. I just want to check for those who are signed up to answer questions only, because it's a bit vague. Rajesh and Prashant, are you property owners in one of these 5 areas? Were you engaged in the process?
Yes, good morning, Rajesh. I'm a property owner around that 142 Street and the Stony Plain corridor. And I was strongly engaged into all the consultation process and everything, and I strongly support the development opportunity.
Okay, great, thank you.
And this is Prashant. Yes, I am also
property owner in McKernan area, close to Garno, and also in agreement with one of the Garno property owner for future development.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's helpful. Question for Jacob. For a citizen group like Grow Together Edmonton, I'm wondering about, do you have any engagement, conversation, or membership that are renters? I think a lot of the opportunity here we are talking about are geared towards rental properties, and I'm curious if you have any perspectives there.
I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I am myself. I'm a renter. If you could clarify the question a little bit.
Yeah, I think oftentimes during rezoning we hear more often than not property owners, and I think today I think I'm anticipating perhaps feedback around rental properties and what densification could do, and I think oftentimes when we talk about prices, rental prices is a big factor as well. I think you kind of touched on it in terms of affordability, but I'm just wondering specifically, can you just speak to kind of your group's perspective on specifically around kind of rental properties and what that does for the pricing there?
Yeah, I guess on my side, I myself am a renter. I know what it is to look for a rental apartment. Our group is composed of a mix of renters and owners. I don't know the exact distribution, but it's like prices, maybe easier to see in the short term. Prices depend on a lot more, but I think rents is where you can see the effects more broadly, and increased housing supply and options in these neighborhoods where people want to live generally has kept Edmonton's rents below what we've seen in the rest of Canada. And I think, again, this would be a step forward to having affordable rents in these neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you for that. I know typically we don't talk about users or what do you call it? Yeah, users in a land use, but I just wanted to make sure that some of those perspectives are covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tang. Councillor Jans.
Yeah, thank you. My first question is to guest jocks. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, just a month or two ago you were here speaking in opposition to a rezoning on 89th Avenue in Garneau. I just wanted to confirm with you what your position was on the PGA related to Garneau. I had to step out and I didn't hear your remarks. I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Well, as you know, I am in favor of this PGA rezoning based on the panel. But yes, that is correct. I was speaking in opposition, about a month ago, I think, regarding a property on 89th Avenue in Garneau. As I said, my family has some historical homes, so I've been kind of grappling with this issue and the interaction between mature neighborhood and historical context. So trying to grapple with that might be more related to the June district discussion, but I think this is absolutely a key central walkable, bikeable location overall and should be a priority growth area.
So you're okay with the PGA because it's focused on 87, 109, 81, but you would, what if it had incurred, or if it included northern Garneau areas, would your position still be the same?
I think it would have changed based on that, just because, as I said last month, I believe that Edmonton has a dwindling heritage context, and we have to kind of think about how we integrate that. And again, that might be more for the district plans, but that area in general is very historic, and I am happy to see some very central development here, both ideally within the Garneau neighborhood as well, but also along the corridors, as noted in the map provided by administration in their presentation. So I am in support of the existing state of the University Garneau major node.
Okay, appreciate the clarification there. Thank you. If I can go to guest Dwang as well, I'm wondering, I read your most recent blog about looking at the data on construction around the RS zone. I was wondering if you've done any analysis or if you're aware of any analysis in terms of, in Garneau, for instance, across from the U of A hospital, there's been at least 3 major apartment buildings that have opened up in the last 24 months, 12 months even, I think. Have you seen then a shift, and I've been trying to find this on like Rent Faster or other data, of people moving out of, say, basement suites in Allendale or not living in Yellowbird or Century Park and moving into hospital accommodations or university accommodations? Like, are we, if I look at the Garneau plan here and there's more people moving in, are we seeing that freeing up housing space in traditional single family homes elsewhere? Or are you seeing any of or like, are we aware of, does anybody track that sort of thing, like the filtering process?
I don't know if we have that data for Edmonton, but as you referred to filtering, it's a well-known phenomenon that's been studied widely, where people moving, they create these moving chains where people moving into new housing liberate older housing. And that's one of the mechanisms by which the housing stock filters to users that might be more suited to it. So you can think of, for example, students who might prefer to live in 1 or 2 bedrooms or studios. They'll free up, who are now living as roommates, so they can improve their quality of lives by moving into these 1 bedrooms or studios, these smaller apartments. And that frees up a single family home for a family. And so you can think of these kinds of moving chains as generally improving the quality of life for everyone by having a better suited housing, to matching the housing to people in a better way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at Garneau on rentfaster.ca right now, and not to plug any particular website, it's the only one I'm aware of. And it's just shocking, some of the rents still in the area. Have you or has anyone else done any analysis of predicted rent growths if other supply is not added?
Yeah, that's beyond my free time, and I'd really like to see that. There's a lot of, housing supply and price, and housing supply, demand, and prices has a well-known relationship. I know we're out of time. I don't have the data for Edmonton. It's beyond my free time. I would love to see some professor take that up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jantz. So that concludes the questions to the panel in favor. Thank you so much for participating. We really value your input. Now we're going to go to folks signed in opposition. Panel 1, I will call your names. Please come down to the that side there if you're in person here. Kyle McLeod, in person? Kyle? Or remote? No. Rob Smythe. Rob, over there, please. Dave Onishenko.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Carol Craig.
I'm online, thank you.
Thank you. Evan Wood, in person or remote? Okay. Got it. Okay. Patricia Presswich?
I'm online.
Online, thank you. Lauren Zelnick, remote? In person, please come down now. Okay. Kelly Butts, remote?
Present, present, remote.
Thank you. Antje Espinaco?
Yep, Antje Espinaco is online.
Thank you. Elizabeth Finn, please come down. Wendy Gervais, in person, please come down. Rachel Muzzlewhite, remote?
Hello,
Sir?
I'm remote.
Thank you. Jesse Sonef, remote? Jesse Sonef, no?
I'm
There
here.
you are. Okay, you are. Okay. Steph Neufeld, remote?
I am remote. Yes,
Thank
thanks.
you. And Anjali Vargazi, in person. Please come down, Anjali. Okay. All right. We will start with Rob Smythe. Each will have 5 minutes to make your presentations, and after that, council members may have questions to you. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor Sohi and members of City Council. Certainly thanks for this opportunity to address Council today. I am presenting on behalf of the Glenora Community League.
Rob, can you move a little close to the mic, please, if you don't
A
mind?
little closer?
Yeah.
Is that sounding better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Council. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Our community
We will start your time again, so if you don't mind, go ahead. Yeah.
Our community does see that Edmonton is at a pivotal moment. There's a subcurrent in our neighborhood and many others that our city needs to change and modify its approach and start working in the best interests of our neighborhoods and communities. Our city needs to ensure growth and land development respects the context of the neighborhoods where development is occurring. City needs to ensure that development strengthens rather than erases. And the city needs to work to ensure that land use and physical places that tell our neighborhood story remain part of each neighborhood's future. The city we have needs to be built on decisions we make about how our city should evolve. We see this upzoning as radical deregulation that reduces transparency and public engagement. It leaves the public, it leaves the community out of the discussion around specific projects, issues of height, density, environmental impact, unit size, and shadowing. Area-wide upzoning for low, mid, and high-rise eliminates public involvement and any public oversight. Fast-tracking leaves neighborhoods out of the process. At this time, our neighborhood does not support this city-led rezoning. The city has not paid attention and carefully studied the cumulative impact of this project together with the district plans, the district policy, and the new zoning bylaw. Taken together, this urban planning work is causing significant harm to many neighborhoods. The PGA project will add to the negative impact on community. We don't want to halt progress and reasonable development, but we do want a future that retains some of the unique and special features of our diverse neighborhoods. Context matters. At this stage of our city's growth, the PGA work is ill-advised. The upzoning the city is dealing with today does little to acknowledge current neighborhood realities. It's also noteworthy that the sites selected for rezoning were selected to leverage existing strong market interest in the area. Logic would seem to suggest that if there's strong market interest to rezone a parcel, landowners can apply for rezoning and follow the normal process that allows for the community to provide commentary on specific applications. A PGA approach encourages an even greater degree of speculation than is currently happening in many neighborhoods. What we believe the city needs to do is set policy to encourage development where development is best suited for our city at this point in time. Priorities for development, possibly on a district-by-district level, need to be articulated. So, for example, the Central District, it would seem our downtown is a priority before development in the heart of residential neighborhoods that make up the balance of the Central District. Our second recommendation deals with the tone and culture of what we see happening in our city. We encourage council and administration to work on addressing the fractured, divisive culture that seems to have emerged over the past 3 or 4 years. Land use planning issues always unfold to an us versus them, different camps, always at odds, winners and losers, always trying to convince the other side that we are right and you are wrong. We need to be working, living, playing, and planning together. It seems to be a divisive culture. We may be idealistic here, but we'd hope the city can regroup internally and create processes where we can work together to move forward. Obviously, land use planning can be challenging, but the city in many other lines of business has plotted a way forward that perhaps not all, but most people support. Council and administration need to look to build broad consensus in the community that its land use plans are solid and supported. We would hope that there is a better way forward for the way in which physical land use planning is done in our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we will go to Dave Onishenko.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start by thanking council, and I want to speak again to these priority growth area rezoning. Next slide, please. So what this is, and this is language taken directly from the city's website on the PGA. It's to take advantage of this investment in transportation, encouraging more housing opportunities. Next slide. The goal is to remove these rezoning barriers, help shorten and streamline the process, as we alluded to. Next slide. And as has been assured to the public, it won't guarantee development, and that buildings and homes can remain on their sites in perpetuity. Next slide. So the summary would say that it allows opportunity without limiting or penalizing existing property owners. Next slide. However, I want to show you how it will allow for redevelopment, but it can and it will penalize existing property owners. Next slide. Specifically, I want to talk about the medium scale residential zone, the RM zone. Next slide. The purpose of this is to allow for multi-unit residential development that range from 4 to 8 stories, and specifically single detached, semi-detached, and duplexes are not intended in the zone. Next slide. And it goes on to say in section 3 that only single detached semis, duplexes are only permitted where existing as of January 1st, 2024, or developed on the same site where multi-unit housing does exist. Next slide. So we see this zone throughout being applied along with the RMU to a variety of these properties. This is along 142nd, Stony Plain Road. Next slide. And I want to show some lower density residential areas where this is being applied to RM H16 and 23. Next slide. And I want to show you these areas in terms of housing typology. Next slide. Specifically, we look at some of these areas where redevelopment has already started to take place. And what is left is remnant small parcels. This type of redevelopment would not be allowed under any of the RM zones. Next slide. This is also in the area just east of 142nd along Stony Plain Road. Next slide. What you see is a remnant lot between skinnies and infill development that now is going to be limited in terms of what can be built. Too small of a lot for any type of RM style and scale of zoning, but prohibited from doing single, semi, or duplex. Next slide. Next slide. So along 124th, these were areas that were removed after a bunch of these concerns were brought forward. Next slide. And next slide. And so, but there are remnant areas, next slide, please, that show some of the character and reinvestment in heritage and homes, new development where this continues to take place. Next slide. Next slide. And existing areas as well around the university. Next slide. With a different form and character, again, we're prohibiting this type of development, reinvestment, and opportunity. Next slide. So how do we fix this? We want to enable redevelopment opportunities when lots are sold and they're consolidated. Right now, we have a whole bunch of these, the majority of these, that are owned by individual property owners, and it's their biggest investment. And now they're going to be stuck and limited due to city-led change, not to changes that they're initiating. Again, they're not developers. And it limits what they can do. They can't redevelop their lots in some cases and who they can sell to as well. Next slide. Specifically, I want to drill this point home. Home owners are not developers. They own single lots that are not consolidated as part of larger development parcels that enable redevelopment. When we work with developers all the time, it is a consolidation of lots. It is working together and then going through that rezoning process, again, where it makes sense. But in this case, we are penalizing individual homeowners, what they can do with their property. Next slide. So here's my recommendation. Let's add a clause within the RM zone that specifically allows for this additional forms of development on sites that are less than 750 meters squared. So this is an individual lot size. This is slightly bigger than a 50 by 150 lot, but it allows for some of this continued reinvestment in property where there's, as I showed you, many examples where other forms of development are prohibited for a variety of reasons. It does not penalize landowners. It does not penalize individual homeowners and allows for that opportunity. Flexibility, allowing for the carrot as opposed to the stick, is what we're trying to achieve here in terms of redevelopment and investment. Next slide.
Thank you. Sorry, Dave.
No, that's good. All done. You got me
5 minutes,
right at the end.
Thank you
so
very much. Next, we will go to Carol Craig. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm living in the area of Westmount, east of 124th Street, and I'm representing an informal, fluctuating group of people who have great concern over what is happening in our neighborhood. We agree that higher density is required to meet the existing and future needs of Edmonton, but we have concerns with the process and how this increased density is being handled by the City of Edmonton. The city plan and its priority growth area rezoning looks at land use and density, does not appear to consider the impacts of increased density on the city's hard and soft infrastructure systems, and most importantly, misses the elements that make a great community and how this is affecting the existing residents that live there. We're focusing, all of the talk that has happened here today, or most of the talk, I should say, is focusing on de-risking for the developer, but we're not talking about what is happening to the people who live in these areas. We did a walkthrough, door knocking. Pretty well everybody was in agreement that higher density is important, but we need to know what's going on, and that's not the case here. The engagement process was faulty. Our little area, which we called the East End of Westmount, was not notified about the first meeting at all. We received no postcards, no road signs, no boulevard placards. We found out when someone was doing a search online and up popped the public meeting information, that resident photocopied the information and distributed it themselves. We sent 2 letters as well to the priority growth team. These letters were acknowledged, but the questions and concerns were not responded to. Our key concerns include, but are not limited to, the fact that we agree with the increase in density, but we want to be part of the solution. The process right now has eliminated opportunity for us to speak about what is going to be happening on these redevelopment lots. We understand that higher density is a given, but the short and long-term impacts to our streetscape, the trees and boulevards, the open spaces and traffic are important. This is our neighborhood, whether we are renters or owners. We are the experts of our community, and we should be consulted. With the increased density, how is the city going to handle certain things? And these are part of our concerns. These are not a full list of what we have sent in our letter. You know, how is the city going to upgrade the amenities that need to be provided to continue to provide the quality of life that we have right now? There's an article in the Globe and Mail by Jennifer Keesmatt. Cities aren't holding up their end of the bargain if they cannot deliver on the public services and spaces that make density of urban life work. And we are in an area with not enough park space as per the MGA. We are in an area where the parks are in decline and decay. And with increased people who don't have their own yards or anything, and you know, that's fine, that's the choice that they have, but they also will need park space. We'll get down into, we would like to have a good neighbor policy clause in all development and building permits that requires the builder development to keep the site and surrounding public spaces in good condition. We are currently dodging dirt and mud and slickness and ice with lots that are being developed and not being looked after. We would like to have development permit officers who understand architecture, and so that we're not getting these big tissue box buildings that are occurring right now that have little architectural details that are causing grading problems within our neighborhoods, and that are, you know, the tree protection that is required is not being fulfilled, and there's nobody to go to. We're being told that there's very little that can be done. Please note that these are only a few of the concerns and questions that we have about the effects of the rezoning that were outlined in our letters. We have not received enough information to have a level of comfort about what is occurring, and we need to be included in the process in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we will go to see Evan Wood is joining us. No, then we'll go to Pat Prestwich.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and see me. Thank you very much. Full disclosure, I'm a historian. I came to Edmonton in 1970 from Eastern Canada to teach at the university. What I found here was a first-class university and a vibrant multicultural city. I'm generally in support of the plan for growth. I think we have to be concerned about density and accommodating new people. What impresses me about the plan, the parts that I've read, namely about history, is that history plays an important role, the history of people and of areas. It's number 5 under the general plan of goals, and it is to preserve in historic buildings. Moreover, history is included as one of the outcomes of the plan, namely that Edmonton protects and enhances its image and identity through heritage. And this underpins other goals such as having a human-centered design and a multicultural city. You have to have history. And I do also agree with one of the previous speakers that Edmonton has had a history of forward urban planning. But you have to look at some of the details, and I don't see evidence of these goals in the plan to rezone 81st Avenue from 109th to 112th Street for 6-story buildings on the north side. In full disclosure, I live on 81st Avenue in a historic building on the north side. The planning rationale is an aesthetic one, namely a gradual transition from the high towers of White Avenue to the 2 to 3-story buildings further south. And the result is predictable, so predictable that it has entered popular culture in magazine covers, cartoons, and films. The little old man sitting on the veranda of his little old house in his rocking chair with his cat, and the man and the cat presumably are overwhelmed by monolithic towers. I'd just like to speak a bit about the particulars. That's what historians are interested in. 81st Avenue from 109th to 112th Street has a rich architectural and historic value. The street's a success story because for over a century, it has continually reinvented itself while retaining its historic importance. And that should be one of the goals of urban planning. From my front window, I see a house built in 1911, probably one of the first houses on the street, but I could also see 2 doors down from it, a much newer house built around 2000, whose style and proportions fit the area. Further along the street, there's a building of 8 units, which has made a reasonable attempt to reflect the historic architecture of the street. Older houses speak to us about the lives of ordinary people, and that's what's important in history. My house was built in 1915 by a man who came from Ontario to seek a better life. He built it with his friends. It wasn't built by builders, and consequently, I have a kitchen with 5 doors in it. During the tough times of the 1930s and 40s, and we know how tough those times were for the West, he and his wife raised 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. They encouraged all 3 children to get an excellent education, including graduate degrees for the girls as well as the boy from the University of Alberta, which was, of course, just up the street. As adults, all 3 children contributed to the growth and success of Edmonton, Alberta, and Canada. And I think that's just one example that I'd like to give of how old homes speak to us and to future generations and why we should try to maintain this historical inheritance. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Lorne Zelik.
Yes. Thank you for allowing me to speak in opposition. The priority growth area rezoning project proposed by the city for the University Garneau community is in tension with the city's existing historic resource management plan and is a premature proposal that should be delayed until the city's Heritage Places strategy is completed. This focus on priority growth disregards the social significance of Garneau's historical resources. Perhaps the only concession is that this proposal has a historic resource right at the center of its development along 81st Avenue that may be intended to anchor the avenue and this section of Garneau to its historic past. Yet the allowance for mid and high-rise buildings along entire blocks of noteworthy avenues and streets will diminish the historical, cultural, and architectural value of historic resources located there. I fear that this historic resource on 81st Ave will soon look like the house from the movie Up, as the next slide shows, if the priority growth proposal is approved. Next slide, please. And the next slide. The city's historical resources provide societal value. It provides a sense of identity and place for local citizens, as well as tangible connections to the past that informs us of our collective history. Yet this value cannot be measured with population density reports or economic output forecasts. I do not have time to elucidate the value of each of the city's historical resources, but I can speak about one building, one house, and that is my home. In 1912, Beck William M. Buster purchased a lot on Treaty 6 lands, the unceded lands of the Papaches First Nation and many Indigenous people who had stewarded these lands and waters within our community for time immemorial. Since he was a farmer who benefited from Alberta's famous bumper crop of 1911, he was fortunate enough to build a large 2.5-story, 2,300 square foot house at what is now 10950 81st Avenue. Although the walls of the house cannot speak, its restoration has revealed hidden stories from the past, literally. The next slide. For example, we have a copy from 1920 of a Canadian paper for juniors, unfortunately called Playmate, a comic from 1950, the next slide, a wasp's nest with what appears to be an illegal basement suite underneath it, and an invitation from Wayne Gretzky for Norm, a former resident, to join him at a taping of a CBC recording in 1982. Apart from the wasp's nest, these little artifacts are snapshots of lives lived in this house. Lives surrounded by family and children and friendships, things we as a society and I personally value highly. My wife and I both lived in basement suites in Garneau while we were doing our undergraduate degrees, and we fell in love with the community. For my graduate studies, we lived in England and Germany in houses that were built before Canada became a country. We returned home to Edmonton in 2012, and I began teaching at the university. The next slide, please. When my wife became pregnant with our fourth child, we had outgrown our house at the south edge of Garneau, and fortunately we were able to purchase the house on 81st Avenue. This house was on the historic inventory list, so before completing the purchase, I had multiple meetings with the heritage planners confirming that it would become a heritage home and they would support its restoration. So in 2017, it was designated as a municipal historic resource, and the restorations will be completed by the end of this summer. We bought this house because of its location in this unique community and its proximity to the vibrant university, but also because of its aesthetic beauty and its heritage and its connection to the past. On my morning commute to St. Joseph's College at the heart of the university campus, I walk through the hospital and pass this painting of my house every day. This, along with a handful of people that stop and read the plaque and stare at our house each day, suggests that others find it beautiful and interesting. But this house is not a museum, it's a family home, with individuals who are embedded in the community and committed to preserving its heritage and longevity and growth. Next slide. Unfortunately, this proposed policy does not engage with the City of Edmonton's Heritage Management Program, and the next slide, nor does it acknowledge the rich historic resources that already exist in Garneau. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Kelly Butts.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, Mayor, Council, and Administration. Thank you very much for allowing me, to speak today. My name is Kelly Butts. I'm a resident of the Garneau neighborhood. I've lived in and around the neighborhood for over 26 years, starting as a student in a fraternity house, then a basement suite and a high-rise apartment. I then purchased a 900 square foot starter home, and now I live with 2 children and a spouse, and we are restoring a 100-year-old home. All of these are in walking distance of the Sugar Bowl Cafe. I love the Garneau neighborhood, its diversity, its vibrancy, and its walkability. It is my home. My ask today is that Council consider delaying the implementation of this proposed bylaw until administration has worked directly with the planning committees of the affected community leagues to achieve its targeted density goals. The people in these committees will help you to achieve these goals in a way that creates the most success with the least harm. We can work together to achieve the aim of 250 people and jobs per hectare in the major nodes. The proposed rezoning plan for the priority growth areas has been rushed for the noble purpose of solving the housing affordability challenge. These changes being proposed will have a material and generational impact on the people who live there. For this reason, we need to get this right. Alternatively to delaying this whole bylaw would be to break it down into smaller constituent parts so that the 90% that is beneficial is not delayed by the 10%, which requires more review. What I would suggest needs another look are the transitions from high density to medium and lower density. The proposed rezoning plan provides for some stark transitions, including 6 and 8-story towers adjacent to or backing lower density zones. This includes areas that are over 1,000 meters from an LRT transit station. I would challenge members of council and administration to consider what it would be like if they had poured blood, sweat, and tears into a property to then stand on your front step, look at your neighbor 8 feet from your house, 8 stories above you, and massed from front to back on the lot. This has a real impact on the value and enjoyment of your home, a place where you want to raise your family. I encourage everyone to take a moment to reflect on what that would feel like if that was you who were impacted directly. As one of the supporters highlighted earlier, support or opposition to this bylaw is very much dependent on whether you or your family are impacted. The Garneau community currently has 116 people per hectare and a vibrant commercial area with jobs. This community only needs to double in density to achieve the stated goals. This can be done while providing human scale transitions between the zoning types. This community is already a successful example of a quilt of housing styles. Please let us work with you to achieve the goals together. Work with us on the university area, major node, priority growth area rezoning, and let's get it right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Antje Espinaco.
That's right.
Please go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. I have lived on 81st Avenue in Garneau for more than 35 years. I moved here, I got married, and most importantly, raised my family here. I've gone for so many walks on these streets that I could do it blindfolded, only bumping into neighbors who I consider dear friends. Garneau is a small neighborhood that contains a great many things. Stroll through our neighborhood and you'll see a grand variety of homes for every age and stage in life. Bike lanes, restaurants, schools, gardens, parks and streets, a bustling busyness of life. It takes longer to get to know the stories here. My longtime friends and neighbors, Spencer and Kaylin, are a folk duo, loud in the pines. I've known Kaylin since she was in diapers, and she grew up here and now lives in her childhood home. Their songs are filled with love for our neighborhood. One of their most recent songs, out last month, talks about leaving Edmonton but deciding to stay, tracking down stray cats and patching cracks in old foundations in our Garneau home with its charming imperfections. Sometimes all you ever need is waiting there for you to see it through. Oh, I love coming home to you. It's not only the art that is merged here. We've got the Garneau String Quartet and Todd Babbitt's novel, The Garneau Block. Margaret Atwood lived here for a time, and Leonard Cohen's song, Sisters of Mercy, written here when he was an artist in residence. Over the decades I've been here, our small neighborhood has gotten a lot smaller. The U of A had already expropriated wide swaths in the 1960s. Of the 2/3 that are left, towers and condos have sprung up along with vacant lots held by speculators. We love our students and hate saying goodbye to each one of them in spring, but we really feel the loss of the long-term residents as family homes disappear. We don't need to be told about change. We've been living it for decades. You might say that change is inevitable, but we still feel it. We also know that that kind of change is not inevitable. It depends on the decisions like this one today that you'll make today. If the city rezones my street, the north side of 81st Avenue between 109th Street and 112th Street, we will lose more than old foundations and charming imperfections. We will lose more than heritage and character or affordable homes where students can live in community. We will lose more long-term residents who are a key part of this mix. We will lose another part of what makes this a neighborhood you love coming home to. Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Elizabeth Finn.
Good morning, everyone. So I also live on 81st Avenue in Garneau. And I wanted to start with saying that according to page 9 of the City of Edmonton's planning report, Garneau is a centrally located neighborhood with a wide variety of housing options. It's well known for its academic buildings and commercial shopping streets. With its close proximity to major employment centers, lively atmosphere, and easy access to entertainment and services, Garneau has become a popular and desirable area for residents and visitors alike. This is exactly how I would describe my neighborhood. When people find out where I live in the city, they express envy. I was not born in Edmonton, nor was I raised here. I moved to the city in 2018 as part of a post-degree certificate program to become an operating room nurse. I had a practicum placement at the University of Alberta Hospital. My partner and I had our first date at Sugar Bowl. My first apartment in the city was in Garneau, right on White Ave. I fell in love with the area immediately. Garneau is diverse and vibrant. I can walk to work and to the grocery store. I have my choice of restaurants and coffee shops. I can take in a show at the Metro, go to a museum. The history that surrounds me in this area makes me feel grounded in a way that very few places do. There are more trees here than anywhere else I've lived, and the birds are diverse and omnipresent. When my husband and I decided to buy our house, there was no debate about where we would start looking. We wanted to live in Garneau. We found the perfect place, our forever home, a beautiful heritage home on a street with 100-year-old trees. My commute to work is a 7-minute walk. We have a lovely yard that provides fruit and vegetables for our table, and is home to our very own chicken flock thanks to the Urban Hen program. Our trees keep our house cool, even in the height of summer. We don't need air conditioning. When family and friends visit from Calgary, they always say, "I can't believe this is in the middle of the city." And it's this that makes Garneau so special. As a single person, I could rent a 1-bedroom, 500-square-foot apartment for a reasonable price. As a married couple, my husband and I have our own dream home, and I can still walk to work. Garneau works for individuals across their lifespan. You can grow up in the area as a kid, attend university, work, live, raise your own family, and eventually retire to a supportive living facility. I've lived in other cities, Calgary, Lethbridge, Kelowna, and none of them give me the sense of home and belonging that the Garneau area of Edmonton has. My husband and I still go for dates at Sugar Bowl, we walk, and every time we do, I think of how lucky I am to live here. I would hate to see that change. As identified by the city, Garneau has an amazing diversity and balance of housing types. Its tree-lined streets keep the cityscape cool in the summer and provide shelter for the birds throughout the year. I recognize the need to increase density across the city, and I'm not diverse to increasing density here in Garneau. What I am concerned about is that in the name of increasing density and decreasing bureaucracy, Garneau is going to lose its uniqueness and charm. It's going to lose what makes everyone want to live there. The people who live in the neighborhood are the ones who know the area best, and are therefore able to see the strengths and weaknesses of any proposed changes to an area. What you are hearing today from local residents is concerns that the proposed changing to city zoning will damage what makes Garneau such an attractive area to begin with. I would encourage you to listen to these residents and hear their concerns. If plans are to go ahead, I would suggest that instead of sweeping rezoning changes, consider a case-by-case approach with local input. Build in times to reflect and reevaluate whether the changes that are being made are meeting the committed stated objectives of the city. They're increasing affordability, they're decreasing rental prices, and that people continue to desire to live in the area even with the changes being implemented. Let's keep the changes in character and in the feel of the neighborhood. I believe that doing this would provide social license for the changes and be consistent with what the Garneau Community League is proposing. In closing, I'd like to leave you with a question. Is Garneau a neighborhood that needs blanket rezoning changes, or is it already an incredible success story in housing diversity that should be studied and emulated across the city? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Wendy Gervais. Please go ahead.
Good morning. I am Wendy Gervais, a 40-year resident of Garneau. I am also a visual artist. Next slide, please. My project, Houses, Homes, Neighborhood Scenes and Stories, depicts more than 35 historic Garneau houses in various states of repair and disrepair. Edmonton historian Ken Tingley researched the individual provenance of each home. Garneau-based writer Shirley Service wrote lively stories to accompany the drawings. Next slide, please. This project was generously supported by the Edmonton Heritage Council's Living Local Grant Program, which engages artists with the history of their community. It was also supported by the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues and the Garneau Community League. The exhibit of Houses, Homes was presented at the beautiful McMullen Gallery, the Strathcona Public Library, MacEwan University recently, and many other public locations. Next slide, please. Of the 35 homes I've depicted, all but 5 are now gone. On the street where I live in East Garneau, 4 older homes from 1912 to 1940 will soon be demolished and replaced. My home, a wartime, locally produced, packaged home, is still standing for now. East Garneau is unassuming and often overlooked. Our elm-lined streets have more than just heritage homes, but many 2- and 3-story walk-up apartment buildings. Most were built during the 60s and 80s. The result was a neighborhood strengthened by diversity, economically, socially, and ethnically. We've had many students, young people, immigrant families, seniors. If I had to choose a word to describe my neighborhood over the past 40 years, I would say vibrancy. I moved to Garneau to raise my 2 children, to walk to school and playgrounds. It was convenient. I could walk to work, grocery stores, pharmacies. Aging in place was my retirement plan, and I am still thankful for the conveniences of this location. But many of the things that drew us to this neighborhood feel like they're being lost. I live on 84th Avenue in East Garneau, and in recent years, and especially in the last few months, I have watched as multiple lot-length apartment buildings pop up. Many of these are built by a single developer whose website says that the company is building 300 micro-suite and multiplex buildings in Edmonton. These buildings have been featured in local news stories and upset neighbors, and I can see why. Apart from the minimal allowances, structures start close to the avenue as possible and end at the alley. On a 33-foot wide lot, there are 9 units or more. That means no outdoor space. There are no trees. Being beside one of these apartments feels like entering a tunnel. My neighbors have found words to describe the apartment buildings: shoe boxes, chicken coops, the barns, and recently the barracks. There would be no need for an art project to depict these homes. They all look the same. To be clear, I have no problem with multi-unit housing. As long as I have lived here in East Garneau, we have had apartments. But these new buildings feel like they come out of nowhere. They don't fit the ambience and architecture of the neighborhood, and they're devoid of inspiration. I also wonder if the residents will have the same community that we've had, the same quality of life as the students, the young people, the immigrant families, the seniors. I understand the need of density, but I think that we can do better than simply maximizing density. We can add more housing units while allowing residents to move and play and to enjoy Garneau's unique appeal. We do that by building off of what's already there. As Barry Johns, architect of MacEwan University, said in Edify magazine recently, the mature neighborhoods are the best bones in the city. Replacing those bones with skinny, multi-story shoeboxes is being used as a way to solve the housing crisis through more supply. As Johns notes, the approach comes at a cost. That cost is a sense of place, the beauty and intrigue that I hope you see in my drawings. There is a feeling that this neighborhood is no longer our own, that we're being slowly choked out and will have no other choice but to sell to this developer. Next slide, please. I appeal to council to not simply check off the density achieved box at the expense of sense of place. Please
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry.
No, thank you very much.
Next, we will go to Rachel Musselwhite. Please go ahead.
Well, hello. Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Rachel Musselwhite, and I'm lucky enough to call Garneau home. What drew us to Garneau was the opportunity to live central. We had previously been living in Mequentewin and loved that neighborhood. However, when I became pregnant and we knew we wanted several kiddos, we were unable to find housing that would work for our family long term, so we ventured south of the river. The photo you see is of my 1927 home shortly before we bought it. We love heritage, and we're excited to find an affordable character home to settle into for the long haul. We also love a project, and the house needed work when we moved in. We've been slowly picking away over the last 10 years, doing much of the work ourselves. My husband even carved in the Latin phrase for "through endurance we conquer" over the front door, as the house has endured for nearly 100 years, and to inspire us to keep enduring through the never-ending renos. Next slide, please. Our largest project came in 2021. We have a son and a daughter who share a room. However, we saw that they would eventually need their own space. We were fortunate enough to find the amazing company Leddy Construction to redo our foundation so that we could increase our home's longevity as well as provide space for additional bedrooms. Next slide. This is our home today. We still have to finish some painting on the one side and some siding, but it's coming along. You may ask, why on earth go to all this work? Well, we love living in Garneau. It's so rich in its diversity with an amazing mixed demographic of students, seniors, families of all ages, wages, and stages. We have everything from apartments to beautiful heritage streets, which make Garneau a true destination. There is also an amazing sense of community here. We often have street dinners, which are open to anyone to join in, including the occasional passerby. Garneau is also truly a 15-minute city, and I'm so grateful to be able to walk to my job at the U of A or walk my kids to school within 10 minutes. So why am I here today? I'm here to share that why maintaining some small-scale housing options is so important while we add density, and why this matters to me. For my family, a 1 to 2 bedroom unit would not be a feasible option. Unfortunately, this tends to be the most lucrative option when building apartment-style housing, and zoning that only prioritizes this severely limits housing options and may force larger households from the core. Access to outdoor amenity space and living on an activated street was also really important to me, and both things small scale can help to provide. Were the long-term plan for Garneau to come to fruition and the majority of housing to become 1 to 2 bedroom, it would not be possible for a family like mine to find housing. You may ask, why not just move elsewhere? As a nurse working at the U of A, proximity to my work really matters. This is because of more than the benefits to my quality of life, which I've already discussed. I work in a specialty area and often I'm on call, and needing to be at the hospital quickly in the event of an emergency where a life-saving procedure is needed for a patient. The amount of time it takes me to get to the hospital really matters. I find much of the conversation around housing in Garneau is very focused on housing options for students, which is totally understandable. They are a large and valuable part of our community. I have, however, noticed that the conversation tends to leave out the over 8,000 hospital staff, from medical staff to food services to maintenance. We have a massive team, as well as the 7,500 employees of the U of A. These employees require access to this space year-round. Many of these folks have multi-person households, which would not be compatible with 1 to 2 bedroom units. This is where preservation of some small scale comes in. Through this, we can both preserve some of our amazing heritage areas, as well as densify in a way that meets the needs of larger households as well, such as increasing duplexes, garages, garage suites, and townhomes that will fit within the streetscape in those areas and keep them activated with their many street accessible entrances. There are many opportunities to also increase apartment-style housing in Garneau. While student housing at the U of A is currently only at 80% capacity, I understand the need to plan for growth. There are spaces that this can be done within our neighborhood without eliminating small scale and allowing Garneau to remain inclusive for a wider variety of households. I'm really grateful for the idea for a plan amendment as presented by the Garneau Community League, and I'm hopeful that this can be further explored. I think it's a really cool opportunity to collaborate in reaching our shared goals of increasing density and affordability, allowing for diversity of ages, wages, and stages within our community through the lens of both city planning and their amazing expertise in education, in tandem with the lived experiences of community members. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share and for the hard work that you do on behalf of Edmontonians each and every day.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Jesse Sonev.
Hello. Thanks for having me, everybody. So I'm Jesse Sonev. I live next to Rachel on 80th Avenue here in Garneau. I run a design build firm focused on residential infill housing, and I've lived here for 12 years. Next slide, please. So I want everyone to understand that there's a lot of conversation about more density or less density, and it really isn't actually, it's kind of missing the point, because for a lot of the land that's possible to redevelop in the RS zone in Garneau, there's not actually a possibility to increase the density that much, if at all, by upzoning. Currently, you could have on your average 33-foot wide lot in Garneau, you could have 5 units that could very easily each be 3-bedroom units. It's about 15 people, right? If you were to change that zoning, you'd be able to increase the unit count significantly by building studio apartments, but you could not really increase the per capita on that piece of land. So, you have roughly the same amount of people if you end up with a 2, 3, and 4-bedroom unit in RS versus studio apartments in RM. So there's not much density difference. Next slide, please. So here's where the difference comes in, and it's why developers really want to upzone. It's because there's a huge financial incentive. The increase in micro units in Garneau is raising the cost of living throughout the core. It's not making things more affordable. There's a huge captive market for landlords that are renting to students in Garneau, and the current lack of 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units means that students don't really have any choice but to live in micro units. They don't have nearly as much opportunity as they would like to have to live with roommates. Jacob mentioned when he was speaking, and a few other folks, not to single out Jacob, mentioned that studio apartments might be an upgrade for some students. And while that is possible, when the student union president spoke in 2023 about the zoning changes that were happening at that time, they spoke in favor of the zoning changes because they were hoping it would increase the inventory of 3-bedroom units in the area. If we go ahead with what's been proposed today, it will absolutely decrease the incentive to build 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units in the area. Next slide, please. Right. So there's an ability right now with the RS zone to build very flexible housing in our community, housing that can be used for students, housing that can be used for families, housing that can be used for aging people, and everyone in between. There's not a flexibility inherent with the monolithic housing typology of studio lofts, which is what we're seeing everywhere. So I want to talk a little bit about how the current upzoning is actually playing out currently in Garneau. Let's go to the next slide, and I'll just show you what's different here. So this is 85th Avenue, I believe, in Garneau, where the zoning of these houses that we can see has been changed to RM from RS. So next slide, please. So you can see that the blue house that was there is now missing. Beautiful 100-year-old house. And next slide, please. This is what's been proposed. So this is a micro loft apartment. And, I can't blame the developer for wanting to do that. It's obviously the most lucrative choice. And it's what the zone of RM incentivizes in the area. It does not incentivize what the neighborhood needs or wants, but it certainly is a great financial choice for that developer. So it's hard for them to make any other choices. And I don't think the city should be prioritizing the needs of out-of-town investors over the needs of people who actually live in the neighborhoods, or the needs of the affordability targets in our neighborhoods. Next slide, please. So this is down the other end of the same street. Beautiful heritage homes. I've actually been in this center house. It was really beautiful. Let's take another next slide, please. It's now sold and micro units are proposed again. Sorry, I'm out of time here. I didn't time myself very well. But please don't degrade the quality of Garneau by changing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to stop here, and we'll come back and hear from Steph Neufeld and Anjali Varghese and others who might be joining us on panel 1, and we'll be back at 1:30 after lunch break. Until then, we are on recess. Thank you.